Daniel Bwala should pick up pen and paper as a lawyer to take note for next appearances. That looking at this map, there's this map below. I don't know whether we see this map clearly. This map we see in the background. This map we see in the background is one that tells half of the story we're trying to tell now. Some may be looking at it as allegation. No, there's proof. The involvement of the president, not just somebody may say unable or unwilling. We have moved from we've moved from suspicion of inability to unwillingness. And if you probe that unwillingness to act further, you will begin to see what Danjuma called it, collaboration at the level of collusion, involving the president directly. And I've had the privilege of saying this on the floor of Congress in Capitol Hill, both in the House and in the Senate and at the State Department, when the US began to worry about the presence of ISIS in our space. And we had to go there to share with them what we knew, what we could see, what we could touch. On the side of the constitution that Bwala is talking about, the contention of this alliance of the South and Middle Belt, which is now being placed before the UN Security Council and the global community in a formal communication that was put in public space on the 16th of December in 2020. Our contention is that we have not made a constitution. Bwala should please take note of section 14.2a of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 that tells how the constitution is made. At least it's admitted, as faulty as it is. It says sovereignty belongs to the people from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. That is the universal truism. We are saying that we have not made a constitution. So all of those who are pointing all of us towards a National Assembly in Abuja to go and adjust whatever we want to adjust it, our answer to them is that they can continue in their mischief. Our sovereignty is with us. It's not dependent on whether they agree with us or they don't. They have power right now, but I can tell you they have no authority. They've lost authority a long time ago. The authority they had was out of the ignorance of the people who didn't know that their sovereignty belonged to them. And gradually, over the last 21 years, right from that 1999, we've managed to explain to everybody that their sovereignty belongs to them according to that admission in section 14.2a. And you go back to the preamble of the Constitution that says that we, the people, have solemnly resolved to live in unity as one indivisible country, and also that we therefore make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. Those are two false claims. And everything else we complain about arises from those two false claims. We have 68 items on the exclusive list in that constitution that puts everything that should belong to us on account of our sovereignty in the hands of the illicit federal government that emerged from the point our federation collapsed in 1966. We had a federation in which the four regions had their constitutions. We agreed to be one country because we were going to be a federation. And it was Ahmadu Bello that listed the 8 demands that defined the depth of autonomy that would be acceptable to the federating units. When in 1953, the motion for independence, Nohoro moved, was defeated by the Northern delegation, it was the same Ahmadu Bello that said, look, the North cannot go along in all of these if we don't have X, Y, Z, 8 items. And it took from that 53 to 59 for all those things to be put in place. So in being in one political union was on account of that depth of autonomy in which our assets belonged to us and we contributed to the center. And the whole number of things that government do was in our hand to do. We've moved away from 1966 from that position to where everything, 68 items on the exclusive list. The guns in the land and now in the hands of that illicit federal government that has been taken over by the Fulani. We make no pretenses around it. Others can do so, but those who are suffering from the brigandage of the Fulani, and it was not by accident that the Global Terror Index will call the herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen, the fourth most deadly terrorist organization in the world. And here we have a president who was a sympathizer, a known sympathizer of Boko Haram. Here we have a president who in his campaign leading to 2015 was so openly associated with Boko Haram that they were prepared to nominate him to represent them in Saudi Arabia when Jonathan felt pressured enough to call for a meeting. Here's the president who is still the life patron of, grand patron of Mietiala, that has been claiming responsibility, in fact, proudly taking responsibility for the activities of this same Fulani herdsmen who are causing havoc all over the place. And we have the same president dipping hands into the treasury and taking 100 billion naira to give to Mietiala. We saw his answer to the governor in Benue when he came to complain that Fulani were killing from outside. And so let's come down to where this matter should be going, because we may all continue to pretend, but I tell you, the owners of the sovereignty that has been hijacked and confiscated by a Nigeria that does not exist, are not going to wait forever. We have placed a plan on the table by which you can engage the matter under the roof. People are facing death from people they can see. The government that is supposed to be taking care is pretending it's not happening, but it's human beings that have been killed. And instead of engaging it, they are going around pointing guns at everybody and making stupid debates and arguments about a constitution. The mandate of the National Assembly, Boala, take note, the legislative mandate of the National Assembly does not extend to constitution making. They are elected to make law within the provisions of constitution. Our contention is that we have not made any constitution. We are tolerating the one that is there now for the purpose of peace and to avoid anarchy. And if we refuse to go to deal with this matter, the East is boiling. The Niger Delta is upside down. You heard what Avengers said the other day. Yoruba land is upside down. The whole world is being told. And the Middle Belt is where, it's like it's become a death epidemic. So if 3/4 of the country, if Nigeria has become such a liability, such a sure source of death, I can assure whoever is listening that the owners of the sovereignty that is confiscated by Decree number 24 of 1999 and under the pretense that we submitted our sovereignty are going to take steps. They're already taking steps.
Tony, may I quickly interject here?
Yes.
If we bring it down to the conversation, to the topic here, there is one thing Boala said. He said that there is no region in Nigeria that does not experience insecurity. Now, bearing that in mind, that every single region here in his argument experiences insecurity.
Yes.
Question then will be, what will be, if you might do that in 2 minutes, please, what is the solution to this?
If you want to solve the problem, the first thing you do is to identify the nature of the problem so you can know exactly what they're trying to solve. In all these parts where they say there's insecurity, oh yes, we agree. But who is doing the insecurity? It is the same Fulani killing in Ijoland, killing in Igbo land, killing in Tiv land, killing in Yoruba land, killing everywhere. And so, if that is the nature of the insecurity, and the guns by which those who are being killed are supposed to defend themselves are confiscated by that illicit constitution operated by the illicit federal government against them, what we should be looking towards is how much more can people, they have endured confiscation of assets. The assets of Niger Delta, oil and gas is seized by that constitution. The ports of Lagos and all of the things that belong to everybody else, the bitumen in Benue seized by that constitution. Now, are we being invited to endure death? These same 12 states that embrace Sharia, that imposed Sharia simultaneously in year 2000, they are contiguous, and they acted simultaneously in year 2000, in defiance of Section 10 of the Constitution as faulty as it is, that says there shall be no state religion. Our interpretation of their action is that they have seceded from the secular union we agreed to be, because we agreed to be a federation and a secular union. And it's in black and white in the Constitution. And they not only imposed Sharia, they brought in Hisbah, and their House of Assembly was involved, their governors were involved. So we interpret it further to mean that they have seceded from the secular, seceded from a secular union, and they have exercised their right to self-determination. What the rest of the country is doing now, and there's nothing else is of interest to the rest of the country. That Nigeria that they are building on the foundation of falsehood and forgery of 1999 Constitution is not our project. If they want us to discuss the project we agreed to be in, the Federation and the Secular Union, we can go to that while the time lasts. But if they insist that they've conquered everybody and they're talking trash all around, pointing us to National Assembly that now is made up of, we have 36 states that have been created out of this, by fiat, out of this 4 regions. And 1 region of the 4 is now in control of 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Count the 3 senators for each and see all of where we land. Unfortunately for them, they were hoping, and this should also go to Yadudu. I'm sure he's going to hear this. Yadudu was thinking that the National Assembly will be where the matter will be resolved. But he will learn jurisprudence on the streets when he gets to find out that the National Assembly has no role in the matter that is at hand. It is sovereignty of the people that has to be resolved. And a meeting, not the type they've been calling before. Those who have to hold the meeting that will produce constitution are the constituent companies that will be countries of their own if Nigeria was not occupying their space. That is the jurisprudence of the situation. And there's no other solution that is going to apply. Those who are being shot at on account of this forged constitution are sooner than later going to do what Autumn had asked people to do in Benue, because nobody can now be invited to endure death. They've endured the confiscation of their assets. They've endured the insults from people who are, look at this petroleum industry bill and what has come out of it. People are contributing to complain of something. And now you tell us that because pipelines run through your land, you have become oil producing. And you take 30%, and give communities that are suffering the environmental degradation of it all for decades. You give them 3%, and you are just insulting people all over the place. Nigeria, defined by 1999 Constitution, is no longer a project. Nigeria, defined by 1999 Constitution, has become a liability we can no longer carry. And we have placed a plan on the table for how we can engage the matter in 2 stages. Let us accept we have not made a constitution. Let us call those whose sovereignties have been confiscated by the pretense of that preamble. It is that preamble that we're talking about. There's no other thing we are interested in reviewing or reworking or discussing. It is that preamble that lied that we have made a constitution, meaning we have not submitted our sovereignty. People are sitting on it on account of brigade. And since our lives will now be required of us, because those who embrace Sharia also owe it a duty of faith to kill the rest, they call infidels. And as feudalists, they think that democracy is an insult on them, that we are slaves and they are the masters. Those 2 have made the union as currently defined by that constitution impossible. And I can assure us, no matter how many guns anybody is pointing at anybody, the owners of the sovereignty, Yoruba will be a country of 60 million people. The lower Niger, that is south and southeast put together will be a country of 70 million people. The middle belt will be a country of more than 45 million people. If the 3 are saying, let us go and discuss, and you sit in one corner pointing guns at them as your only response, I tell you, there is this far, no further.
Tony, thank you very much for intervention. But please, now, yes. I want you to quickly, in 1 minute, Boala, I think before you joined us, Boala made a case when I asked, when we discussed the issue of Sunday Boho,
yes.
He said that, the reason why I'm asking you this question as well, yes. to pick your brain, because yes. also you are a lawyer like Boala yes. here. He said, and he quoted the Administration of Justice Act 148 subsection 2. Now I'm sounding like a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I wrote it down, by the way. If not, people will think I've got everything off heart. Anyway, So that he's saying that that the state in this case, or rather the law enforcement agents, have the right to, the moment they have the search warrant and warrant of arrest, that is executable at any point in time, irrespective of the point at the time of the day or night. Yes. So that they can do that. So what's your take? Is that what because my question is, why can't we do that during the day or early in the morning? Or does that basically also sit with you that invasion was rightly done at the time of the day it was done?
Law enforcement people can move any time of the day or night to their targets or whoever their suspects are, if they have the warrant and all kinds of background things. But we'll be deceiving ourselves if we think that what we're discussing now is an issue of law enforcement. How did Sunday Igboho come about? What was it? I'm sure you saw the video in Ibadan, where Sunday Igboho came to join us in the midst of a press conference on the 17th or so of March. And he told more than 4 million people listening, I'm happy your platform was involved in that World Press Conference, that all of what they are complaining about in Yoruba land is articulated in the constitutional force majeure proclamation, which we had presented and in which we had given both the federal government and all the other, the states and all the other stakeholders ample opportunity to digest and come forward so that we can acknowledge our problem. There's a union dispute now. Those who are everything anchored on that 1999 constitution. I want Bola to listen carefully. Everything anchored, everything created on on the basis of that 1999 constitution, including all the institutions, including the National Assembly, including the police and army, are now subject of dispute. We say the document is a forgery and a fraud. All the laws that are based on them, on that constitution, are now in dispute. So if I'm talking about how you come to my space in the first place, which is what the Constitution settles in that claim that we have agreed. If we're saying no, we never met, we never agreed, and you hang on to your position because you have all the guns, appropriated by that Constitution to you, well, you can go about thinking it's a question of law and order and enforcement. Those who are the receiving end, for which reason they are doing what they are doing, and you can be sure I'm not speaking to this matter from afar. I'm speaking to it as one who is directly involved in what led to in the Niger Delta end of it, in the Biafra side of it, in the Yoruba side of it, in terms of eyeball to eyeball with all the sides. Then the international stakeholders, the ones who are in a war with an ISIS that came in 2014 and joined forces with Boko Haram to become ISWAP. The US and its allies already have a 67, alliance of countries that will have to hold hands to see to it that that madness is brought to an end. And so I'm least interested in the law of how police can move or how they cannot move. The issues being raised are not questions that law and order, enforcement procedure apply to. Let us accept we have a problem and call a meeting of all. The eastern side is upside down. You saw the arrest and the arrest of. Has it not come to where we have to acknowledge that the whole country cannot be boiling and we pretend that nothing is happening because we confiscate the guns in the land by a forgery we call the Constitution of 1999. There must be an end to all of this.
So thank you very much, Mr. Tunde. I mean, your argument is very well noted that ab initio that there is no constitution made by the people. Obviously, the preamble, which you've re-emphasized again as the main basis of, even if at all, that the conversation which confers that legitimacy by the people is thereby missing. I mean,
the nationalities are simply saying they have not submitted their lands and their people into this union. Until that question is taken, all the other issues are a distraction to everybody. And those who are at the receiving end are not going to wait because their right to self-determination is inalienable. They are going to exercise it. It may be difficult, it may be tough, But you know what? The only alternative is to wait and be killed by people who are already rampaging upon towards them, and then the government is pretending that nothing is going on.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So we will be rounding up now. I see Professor Olufemilade is raising up his hand. Prof, I would come back to you if either you for your intervention or your question, but let me quickly take questions. Now, like I said before at the beginning, if your device is only iPhone, Galaxy or whatever, sadly, even if you raise your hand, we are not going to call upon you.